You've been looking for a better way to do front wheel bearing and rotor replacements. Well, now you've got it. It's the HubShark. When it comes to doing repairs more quickly and efficiently, I'm sure the HubShark will become one of your favorite tools. It's easy to use, and it's forged of heavy metals, so it's tough. Use it with pneumatic or electric power tools. It's so rugged, we even give you a lifetime warranty. There's nothing like the HubShark. It's a patented horizontal press designed to pull and replace the hub, wheel rotor, and front wheel bearings on front wheel drive vehicles. But you know what automotive technicians tell us they like best about the HubShark? It's really easy to use. Well then, let's run through an entire removal and installation process so you can see for yourself just how to use this great new tool. Lift the car on a hoist that does not keep weight on the front wheels. Remove the wheel, and then you'll remove the axle nut. You can see that our model car is not a new shiny vehicle, but is one that has a good coat of rust on it. Since the steering knuckle stays on the car, we need to be able to swing the hub in as wide an arc as possible to remove the short shaft from the hub. Next, you'll remove the caliper and hang it on the strut. Remember, don't let the caliper weight hang on the hose. Remove the cotter pin. Next, you'll remove the steering knuckle from the lower control arm. On the Honda, common practice is to drive the bolt up as you see us doing here, though some vehicles allow us to lift the knuckle off the ball joint with a pry bar. Use your best judgment to get the steering knuckle off the lower control arm. Remove the short shaft from the hub. This requires a pull and turning motion, and the short shaft will clear the hub. Now you're ready to use the HubShark to pull the hub and trapped rotor. It is very important to keep the center screw well lubricated. Next, put the short nut on the short threads and slide the large washer onto the center screw against the short nut. Position the jaws of the hub puller behind the brake rotor. The hub puller adapters are called HPA. Position HPA 1, the larger one, or HPA 2, the smaller one, on the center screw against the hub. Then thread the large nut. It's important to visualize the operation of the hub puller. Remember, the jaws are pushing on the front of the steering knuckle and the HPA on the back of the hub in front of the large nut. It's coming down the long threads and pushing the hub and rotor out from the back. So you turn the short nut with your impact wrench and hold the large nut with a 1 1/4 wrench. As the big center screw turns, the HPA, which is on the back of the hub, pushes it out. You may encounter an unusually difficult hub to pull. Tremendous pressures will develop quickly when using a power wrench. At the first sign of bending of the puller jaws or the puller yoke, the large bar, stop the power tool. Be sure there is no slippage of the jaws and bending. Now that you've seen the HubShark tackle a vehicle with a trapped rotor assembly, let's give you a quick demo of how to handle a vehicle with a floating rotor design. Take the wheel and components off just as you did before. After you remove the caliper, the rotor comes right off, exposing the hub. Carefully check the bearing pocket for snap rings and remove any you find that may hold the bearing. Notice the ball bearings in the bearing. The inner race of the bearing came out on the hub. In this bearing pulling and replacement exercise, we did not replace the old bearing with a new bearing, as this vehicle isn't going to move again. As you can see, the Honda knuckle has a curved edge around the bearing pocket. We're going to show you the wrong way and the right way to pull this bearing. Notice the sleeve and its position on the bearing opening. It's difficult to keep it square as the pressure builds as we pull the bearing. Notice how slowly the center screw is turning. This is not working properly as the bearing is binding in the sleeve. So we will push the bearing back into the pocket with our bearing installer and remove the sleeve and adapter. Now, take the hub puller and reverse the jaws. Position the jaws on the steering knuckle and put the center screw through the bearing and put the remover and nut on as before. You'll see the bearing come right out of the pocket onto the center screw. The bearing is pulled. When the inner race comes off with the hub, put the hub in a vise. Set the adapter and puller on the hub with the jaws going down on the flats of the hub. Turn the puller and lift the inner race from the hub. Prepare the bearing pocket for the new bearing. Select the installer. This is a major judgment call in this operation. You want to select the installer where the outer race of the bearing touches only the shoulder of the installer, and they have similar diameters. Lubricate the center screw again, and place the new bearing in the pocket. Put the center screw through the installer and put the center screw through the bearing. Block the back with an adapter and thread on the large nut. Hold the large nut with your wrench and turn the center screw with your power wrench. Watch the bearing move into the pocket. At the first change in sound of the power wrench, and when you see the center screw slow down, stop the power wrench. The bearing is installed. Now, the same installer and adapter that you used to install the bearing will install the hub and trapped rotor. Position the hub in the bearing. Put the center screw through the hub with the installer against the hub. Block the back with the adapter, thread on the large nut, and turn the center screw with the power wrench. Notice how the hub is turning as it is inserted into the bearing. The HubShark portion of the job is done. Now you see why the HubShark is such an important tool to have in your shop. You're on your way to making wheel bearing and rotor work easier, safer, and finally more profitable. Should you have any questions about using the HubShark, don't hesitate to get in touch with us. Just talk to your tool jobber rep or call our toll-free 800 number.